Greetings and welcome back, everybody. Nico and Rob here with another installment of the Integrative Mysticism podcast. And in this installment, we thought it would actually be a good idea to open up the conversation of dreams. And in talking to Rob before even getting to recording, there was sort of this not quite sure where to start, at least as far as I'm concerned. And then Rob had the wise idea of speaking more to how we would be served best when approaching dreams. And so in this particular podcast, we're going to talk about how to actually break down and delineate the subject of dreams, how to really take a healthy approach to what you are looking at, because the topic of dreams itself is humongous, right? We could go in all kinds of different directions, and there's no doubt in my mind we'll probably come back to this conversation again. But I think taking a smart, sensible, and grounded approach to actually creating a way to, or a nice foundation, a framework with which to approach an understanding of our dreams, or, for that matter, any kind of vision, is crucial for anyone on the path. We are coming out of an age of spectacle and specious thinking, thank goodness. And that means we want to make sure that as we enter this age of another tier of awakened enlightenment and, of course, reason, we are able to apply that to the way we approach our dreams and how we actually interact with ourselves and all aspects of the dreamscape. How are you doing today, Rob?
I pretty much couldn't be better, Nico, and I really want to drive home that originating point you made that I talked about in the necessity is not really there so much to define what dreams are. Uh, Dreams permeate through so many spheres of reality, the personal and collective unconscious, the astral and physical planes, byproducts of brain and astral activity, etc., and so forth, that dreams, frankly, are dreams. And I totally agree with you about focusing on the ways to approach and relate to them, because, frankly, dreams can potentially serve as the most powerful opening catalysts for the evolutionary change we seek. I mean, the blueprints are presented to us so brilliantly and so fluidly and so vibrantly, visually, etc., and so forth, that if we find the optimal way to approach and relate to dreams, there's no limit to the potential catalysts involved in what you need to grow.
It can be difficult. What are we looking at when we actually have a dream? Is that a vision? Is it a spiritual analysis? Is it a visitation from a guide or a loved one? Or is it just the brain processing the detritus from the day? For instance, I know when I am having a visitation versus when I am having a memory, or when I am processing a memory or some kind of stimulus that I just sort of carried into the dream state. And there are a couple of different signs that I pay attention to there. I can tell when a dream is just sort of my brain trying to solve itself. And it's crucial that we don't get wound up in trying to over significate everything, while at the same time also not dismiss everything. What
Well,
are
the
some of the
beauty.
things? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, the beauty of your relationship with dreams is you can set up a number of background programming, so to speak, to serve you. So, for instance, for myself, uh, I tend to I go with the operation of, if I'm going to need to know something from this dream, I will vividly be able to recall it when I awake. And what I find is that serves as a filter to delineate the kind of personal subconscious processing versus what my higher self is connecting to in the collective unconscious. So
Mhm.
if it sticks, I stick with it. Now, personally, I think it's important to be careful in your analysis, because when it comes to dreams, because they're definitionless, the analysis can become contaminated quite quickly.
Yeah.
And so, how this can kind of effect can occur is some people and I've done this many times. I wake up and have a dream, and I have the symbolism in my mind, the visual and the recall of it. I'll immediately jump to the dream journal online and start finding start defining it and associating meaning, pretty rapidly. That's not a problem. But what can be a problem is if you so rapidly engage in that process, you have the potential to miss out on something that you gloss over because you've gone too far into the analysis. So take a step back when you have that dream that sticks, and take it all in and let yourself come to your own personal analysis without the external influence. What say you?
I completely agree. I think that one of the things that can be very damaging to any kind of divination or any kind of opportunity to really integrate and soak up guidance is the deference that we might give to more of an exoteric source of intelligence. And so, for those that out there that might not necessarily know that term exoteric, it's the opposite of esoteric. So, exoteric, that is basically what you might consider to be the streamlined for the masses textbook definition, the sort of baseline stuff. And we use exoteric work all the time. We of course consider the exoteric when looking at our dreams or looking at numerology or astrology or the tarot. But the difference between somebody who is just reading out of a book or reading from memory and somebody who is engaging with the spiritual and the esoteric is one that is not leaning or giving power away to the exoteric association or attribution. So, for instance, in astrology, someone may say, well, Venus is the planet of romance and love and pleasure, and they would be correct. However, if they stop there, they've oversimplified the message that could be coming through. And they may not necessarily be looking at what exactly the energy or the esoteric conversation of that particular instance or aspect or day or combination or alchemy that is coming forth is actually doing. And so sometimes we have a temptation to oversimplify. And there's a lot I could say about that I don't want to get into here because we'll spin off topic. But we have to find it sometimes. I think that
Well,
when you
that's the
talk,
thing. I mean, oversimplify or oversignify, as you said, that's easy to do because, frankly, everything is available in the dreamscape. Do you want to tap into an akashic memory? You can go there in the dream space. Do you want to communicate with a past loved one who has passed? Sure, that's there too. Do you need to understand one of the archetypes that could be influencing you in a negative way? Well, yeah, you can meet that guy. I mean, when everything's available, everything is significant and insignificant at the same time. So yeah, it's a challenge to find that harmonious balance to work with the dreams in the best way possible.
so when it comes to just maybe taking it the first step, how do you, Rob, in your own work, in your own examination, determine whether or not a dream is significant, right? Is it guidance or is it the brain processing the detritus of the day? How do you differentiate those occurrences when you are looking at your own situation?
Well, first off, let me state that my working relationship is it's actually a passive working relationship. For anyone who's played MMOs, uh, for me, the dream work, I've unlocked a bunch of passive abilities. I don't have a lot of active abilities on the bar because, frankly, for me, and this is just me, I'm not saying this is the way for anybody, but for me, it is. Uh, when it times to come to sleep, I don't want to be conscious anymore. I do want to shut down and shut off and just and rest. And I basically let the higher self go on autopilot.
Mhm.
So, but as it pertains to your question regarding how do I, what are my means and ways of interpreting dreams? It's about if it's going to be something that's meaningful and that I'm going to actively use, then it tends to invoke powerful emotions. The vividness is very pronounced. It sticks. The
Right.
more internal brain processing, get through the daily experience consolidation episode. I it's my dreamscape is very fragmented and disoriented. Nothing sticks. And so I know when I arise from that processing that I can't really latch on to anything. It's just a mishmash.
Okay.
Those are the brain processing dreams. Visitation dreams, I mean, if I see someone I know in a dream and we're having some sort of engagement, it's a visitation dream. I don't even go into any alternative probability of the meaning of it. Okay. So my friend who just died visited me, or this one visitor, you visited me, and we had things to do, and that's it. In terms of interpretation of symbolism, what was said will stand out. The scenery, something will stick, and that's what I need to focus on in order to gain that meaning. Once
Hmm.
I have my foundation, then I access the deferent sources. How about you?
Well, it doesn't sound like deference at all. It sounds like comparison, which I think, yeah, that's pretty much where, well, one of the places I was going to go. I think that being able to compare your findings with maybe what other people have found, exploring their own creations can be incredibly helpful. Just don't give all of your power away to the other in that situation. To be honest, I don't really remember a lot of my dreams. I don't tend to have the dreams of, just going through a day and nothing happens. Like, I've never had a dream where I'm just taking a shower and that's it. Some people do. And I think that for my experience, the only dreams I have and the only dreams I remember, which again are very seldom, I maybe remember one or two dreams a week. It's usually something that is highly significant. I do often have a lot of encounters. I had a very interesting dream earlier this week. It was about the night of the evening of the 9th going into the 10th, so Sunday to Monday this last week. And I ended up, the dream was very, very clear what was going on. I had been doing a lot of work, and I've been doing a lot of work overnight. I've been basically up until, 1 or 2 in the morning every night, ceremony, ritual, spells, constantly. And I had this dream where I was walking down this little cleft into this flat field, and I had a shovel with me, and I looked into the field, and under what looked like almost like a spotlight or a stadium light, I started to see a bunch of people come up out of the ground, almost like they were coming out of their graves. And 7 or 8 of them was, just walking towards me on this footpath. And I stood aside on the footpath to let them go through. And they looked kind of young. They looked maybe early 20s. And there was this strange, I don't want to say tension, but there was this very clear um hmm, kind of vibe going on. Like there was this mutual acknowledgement of, we're not friends, but we're not necessarily enemies either. And they kind of gave me this look, and I remember in the dream I was like, "What's up, guys? Don't worry about me. Just gathering some graveyard dirt." And they and they kind of were like, "Okay, yeah, all right." And they just kind of walked past me and up the trail, and they looked just sort of indifferent. And what I took from that was obviously that this is a response to a lot of the work that I was doing. And but I also got this knowledge that these beings, these spirits, were, guides or departed loved ones of people that ultimately I think were attempting some kind of interaction with me that I did not want. And it's not that they wanted it either. Actually, the vibe I got from these spirits was like, we just wanted to come and check you out, because our cousin, our son, our brother, our dad, whoever, seems to have a problem with you. You seem cool. We're just going to let you pass on by, and it was just kind of an interesting, kind of play that went on there. And it kind of gave me this understanding that, like, okay, a certain spiritual battle that's been kind of waging behind the scenes, which I have not really talked about much with, maybe with the exception of you and maybe 7 other people. This is a part of the whole bigger thing. It's over. And they just kind of moved on. I don't look at any one particular element of a dream unless I'm shown that it needs to stand out.
If you
Rising Dead,
remember,
all
it
of that.
matters.
Yeah.
If you remember, it matters. And I'm just writhing with curiosity. How did you come to understand the significance and meaning of this dream?
Well, my dreams play out as a scene. I don't tend to recall. I don't get just the barrage of information, right? Where it's just sort of symbols, 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 symbols. Thank goodness my guides and my higher levels always present me with a scene, in a conversation of some kind. And the way I would describe the best way I could describe the way I was interpreting things is I wasn't looking at the entirety of the dream based on its individual parts. The things that stood out to me were the mood of the people that were walking by me, and they seemed pretty put out. They weren't put out by me. They weren't irritated by me. They were almost irritated by the fact that anything was going on at all. And the reason I went to the interpretation, like, okay, this may have had to do with them being irritated by maybe somebody who was invoking them, or somebody who was working with them, or somebody who was calling upon them. They could have been ancestors assuming a younger form of other people's relatives and things like that. The reason I went there is because of what I had said in the dream, where I said I was there to gather graveyard dirt, which is kind of interesting. Now, graveyard dirt I don't work with graveyard dirt. That was one thing. I don't really work with graveyard dirt. But the fact that I said I did, and I know what it's for, graveyard dirt is used in a lot of folk practices to bring about transitions, to bring about endings, to close and punctuate situations, to work with the spirits of those that are transitioned. It can be used in spiritual combat, or it can be used in divination. It can also be a way that a person might use the energies of, again, maybe a particular, or call upon the energies, not use, but call upon the energies of a particular spirit. And since I don't use graveyard dirt, I was thinking, oh, wait, I was being sarcastic. I was being facetious. I was being cheeky. I was calling them out. I was saying, oh, I'm here to get graveyard dirt because somebody thought that they were going to try and use graveyard dirt on me. And then what ended up happening is that those spirits were ultimately kind of put out by the person who cast the spell. So I don't know what's going on for them. And those spirits just walked right by. We gave each other the acknowledging nod, and they let me go about my business. And nothing came of it.
As you relay this dream, Nico, I what's coming to me is just it's almost as if you accessed a nexus point within the astral. There spirits coming through all these different personal and external forces coming together. I'm wondering what your take on that was.
Well, that could very well be. I am a medium, and mediums do have something in their field which allows them to operate as what you would call a nexus point. Their energy fields permeate. All of our energy fields permeate all dimensions and realities at the same time. It's just that our bodies and our psyches, can only perceive so much as we have developed them. And for me, I mean, it's not the first time I've had visitations, but what I do often when I think about that dream, I think about, okay, I'm being shown that, okay, yeah, this is also quite significant because it does look like another layer to this is that, the whole, well, I'm calling upon the spirits of my ancestors to kick your ass, or I'm going to call my late brother to teach you a lesson, or whatever was going on. It kind of showed me that, again, because we're all going through this shift together, there are a lot of people that have transitioned that are kind of like, we want this drama to be done too. We're ready for people to actually grow. We want to see you grow. We want to see you advance. We want to see you evolve out of the petty dramas and all of that have been kind of playing out on the planet, and all the emotional constructs that have been playing out on the planet. And I think that being able to communicate with them was basically them kind of, hey, we'll take care of this. Maybe ceasefire, Nico. And because I'm not afraid to kill.
Maybe. Emphasis on maybe.
I'm not putting anything away, but
I hope not.
a lot of people don't know this about me. So, okay, friendly neighborhood astrologer by day, Van Helsing or Buffy the Vampire Slayer by night. So that's kind of how it goes. But the the nexus point discussion, I want to come back to that. There are a lot of, souls, a lot of beings that visit us in our dreams that have crossed over or have not crossed over. And, I've had visitations from all kinds of people. One of the things, oh, by the way, just a quick aside, when it comes to assessing a dream, this is just for me and my experience. Remember, Rob and I are each speaking from our individual experiences. A lot of our stuff just incidentally coincides, but this is a particular space where we may not 100% have the same interpretation of how things work. So remember, what you know works for you is more important than what you hear from him or from me. Right, Rob?
Wholeheartedly agree.
Okay. So for me, one of the biggest significant points when it comes for my visitations is when I'm communicating with somebody and they've transitioned, and I've had, plenty of people visit me that have transitioned in my own life. They don't open their mouths to speak. The communication is all telepathic. Whether or not I'm speaking with an open mouth or not depends on how lucid I am in the dream, but all telepathic from their part. That's how it has been with, I've had, when Hayden came and visited me, he never opens his mouth to speak, but he does speak very clearly and very loudly. I've had my animals come to me, and they've come to me in human form. One of my cats, Rosie, which I guess you would consider to be Persephone's late mother, she passed away back in early 2013. She actually appeared to me as she looked kind of like Bonnie Hunt, the wife of Tom Hanks in Green Mile, and she would communicate the same way, purely telepathically, not opening her mouth. So that's how I kind of interpret it. And these spirits, we were communicating essentially the same way. There was no opening of the mouth. But these particular beings, I kind of realized were, I didn't have any pre-existing relationship with them. And actually, at the end of it all, I felt kind of bad for them because I was like, you got dragged into this. You got dragged into a fight that I've been in with one or several other people, you know, and you're in an abusive relationship with your living family member. I think you should cut them off. Which is kind of interesting.
Well, that right there kind of touches upon kind of my experience with visitation dreams. And by the way, you can have extraterrestrial consciousness visit you too in your dream space.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, they'll pay a visit if you're open and so choose. But for me, my visitation dreams, the conversation is what sticks out because my visitation dreams tend to lend themselves to be the most mundane version of the dreams I have. It's literally so and so is appears and we're sitting next to each other on a chair talking,
Yeah.
just like we would in Terra Firma, third dimension. We're not flying around the landscape or assuming energy forms or fending off ascended artificial consciousness that has subjugated the natural ascended consciousness. No, we'll just sit and have a conversation. So when you said that, that stoked upon the commonality we do share in that regard. One of the most challenging dreams for me to relate to, and I have improved, are the prophetic dreams. And for me, I think one of my hiccups is I want to understand the message so badly that I miss the message. And so
Mm.
I'm just would like to pick your brain on everything prophetic dreams.
I have
I mean,
there
I
there
can
is a
relay
there
how I've developed the relationship with them, and that typically involves a words appearing, and in general, invocation of deja vu. If I see a written word appear, then I tend to know that this dream is something that is a probability that could manifest. And
I
if deja vu comes, it's pretty much a guarantee. I'll pretty much always recognize it. But I'm wondering what your take is.
I think trying to discern whether or not something is prophetic or not in the moment is probably going to twist anybody up. I think that you have to be able to simply look at it and see what it is, what's there and what's not there, and understand that all of that has meaning, but we don't want to project into that. You got to, I think that at that point, you just have to look at it for what it is and, take measures to get ready for what it is, right? Whatever you're getting, sometimes you're not getting negative news. Those are two very sad and negative examples to present in this podcast. But you I mean, what can you do with it? You always have free will. Take agency with the message you're getting.
Well, the preparation uh, can get your cleansing your shields up, folks, because that kind of preparation has the potential to thwart probabilities that can be problematic.
Or at least
But
diminish them to the point of insignificance. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It gives you a leg up to contend with what's to come.
Yeah.
Um, Going, wailing on the street, the end is nigh. That's probably not going to get you anywhere. But you can do something about it for yours and your own, and
Yeah.
yourself and yours. So, I mean, prophetic dreams are always a work in progress. But again, I recommend if you get the sense of prophecy, be mindful of how locked in you get to it. Because no matter what, like Nico said, free will is always at play.
Yeah.
You're picking up on probabilities across the multiverse. That doesn't guarantee it's going to play out in this universe.
And you're gonna
Um,
get all the information that you need in that dream. I know it can sometimes be very frustrating if it does seem very esoteric or it does seem very confusing or incomplete. No, it's complete. Um, this isn't a dream. This was actually a session that I had um, back in 2019, November 2019, and he can verify this. So I was doing a mediumship session. I was, communicating with Christoph's late grandmother, and she had come into the room, and we were relaying messages back and forth, and I was talking to her and I was talking to him, and she had said something very interesting about how he needed to have, you know, his temple, or church, as it were, because he's Christian, in his home space, and that there is going to be a point in the near future. Keep in mind, this was November 2019, where temple and sacrament will need to be held in the home. You need to have a home altar. You need to have a home temple. You need to have a home church. And I was like, at the time, I interpreted that as, well, you just need to take your spiritual practice more seriously. If you're really into all this, giving all your deference to the church and only being spiritual on Sundays, just kind of going on like that. But COVID happened, you know. I've had messages where, at the beginning of 2020, oh my God, I pissed off the world. I took a step back from doing general astrology for mass populations. I would still do astrology for individuals, but not for the masses. And yeah, I guess it would have been a bit of a shock, but I got messages from my guides that, the astrology was kind of going through its share of shifting, right? It's not just humans going through a conscious evolution shift. It's also it's all of us. It's everything. It's the universe is going through a complete rewrite. Yeah, that's true. But what ended up happening was I in January 2020, I got this, it's like astrology is really not going to serve right now. Astrology is just not going to be applicable to the collective experience. And then 2 months later, COVID happened, and no one predicted it. And I'm not saying I predicted COVID. And yeah, there have been people since then kind of, covering, and, it's like, no, I saw this because this, and I gave a really general, projection bait interpretation to back myself up. And it's like, no, just give up, honey. Like, it's okay. We're past that now. And I was just shown, like, no, 2020, no astrology for the masses. It's not applicable. We're updating the software, so to speak. And I honored it. I did it for individuals because, individual charts are different than collective, but I followed my guidance and it turned out to be true. We're doing it again now, right? I mean, obviously I'm still doing horoscopes now. I'm doing monthlies now. I'm doing special astrology reports now, but for the year of 2020, I mean, for the vast majority of it, I don't think I got back on astrology until about October. It had to do with, just sort of letting the loading screen do its thing. And that was also prompted through prophecy.
So how do you then? We just touched upon the prophetic, bringing it back to the personal.
Mm-hmm.
What's the dreamscape like for you when that which is unresolved is being revealed? Because for me, frankly, there isn't a pattern. It's not. I don't. It's not something that just is a consistent thing. If it's unresolved, it presents itself, and it's incumbent upon me to recognize that it's unresolved.
Well, I think that really depends on what the context is. If it's unresolved, that could be anything. Are we talking about an unresolved passion, an unresolved goal, an unresolved relationship, an unresolved family situation, an unresolved aspect of self? How do you deal with it? I mean, I guess it has to do with what are you feeling in the dream?
Well, I'm just realizing that for me, uh, there is actually a pattern, and it's not it's recurring. If you're finding recurring themes within a kind of generally close time frame, you will need to pick up on that theme. Just because a dream invokes fear or the stressful dreams,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't always equate to, oh, you have some unresolved problem. That could
No.
be tapping into a multiple number of possibilities that ultimately is going to be come down to your own subjective interpretation.
Well,
But
give
I
me.
think if there's recurring themes, not regardless of the whole context of each dream, but if there's a recurring piece, that could be a clue to the unresolved.
Well, give me an example
Okay.
of
My
some.
example is I'm highly attuned to water, as you know, obviously.
Yeah,
But I have a recurring dream of orcas drowning me. And I haven't been
orchids.
able, yeah, orcas. Either an orca in the ocean or an orca in a pool. An orca will or orcas will drown me. And I haven't uncovered any real insight to it. But I believe it's something unresolved. I just haven't been able to uncover it. And
The
obviously,
first
by stating this dream with you, I'm also in trying to invoke a response and interpretation from you.
I was offering because I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. So this is perfect. I didn't know what to say. I needed a prompt. Prompt. It's kind of like with tarot readings, you know. I will not read for people who don't have questions, which is why I don't do parties. I'm not gonna just like have somebody show up and then just be like, do it. I'm like, I don't care. My higher self will not show up for this. My higher self lives with purpose and intent. And if there's no purpose or intent, he ain't getting online, you know? Um, so one of the things that I would say, all right, okay, is the first thing that I would say is what is the nature of the drowning? Is it a surprise? Are you in the dream and it's already happening? Is it something that is it the end of a long dream? Is it the beginning of a dream? Is it the middle of the dream? What is it?
So it tends to be the totality of the dream, and it doesn't just happen instantly. The scene will begin either in like a SeaWorld type pool or it's usually a pool. I don't really know if I can recall it being in the open water. I feel like it's always in like a SeaWorld type pool. And the orca will be there, just floating where it is, and then it just comes towards me, grabs me by leg. I think it's usually the leg, and just brings me down.
Okay.
And it feels like I'm gasping, trying to get my breath underwater. It's not. I mean, I'm scared, and it just takes me down, and then I wake up, and that's a
So,
recurring dream.
okay, for the audience, you'll note I'm not running and looking for the symbolism of the orca right now. We're looking at the scene. We're not looking at symbolism of whales or the orcas in particular. So the first thing is you're getting pulled down. Are you getting pulled deeper? The question is, okay, and again, obviously how lucid you are in these dreams makes a difference.
It does
Get
fade to black. I mean, the pool is not really a pool bottom. It just keeps going down until it's black, and then
okay.
I wake up.
So the orca itself, to me, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to set the orca aside for a second, and we're going to look specifically at the going down, diving down to black. And the question I go to here is, okay, is something asking you to explore something deeper
Yes,
and
you're right.
perhaps
It just came to me as we speak. It's actually trying to aid me. It's bringing me
forcing
down to
you
show me something.
right? Now, if
It's
it's
not trying to kill me like my conscious mind is feeding into. No, it is. You're right. Yes.
right, is there something that you are comfortable at a surface understanding of? Because the orca itself, if the orca wanted to kill you, the orca doesn't have to drown you to do that. But being pulled is basically, okay, there is a fear. There is something in the subconscious that is trying to become conscious. There is something latent that is maybe trying to become awakened, integrated, something that is, you know, probably scary and yet at the same time life enhancing. Perhaps in your situation, there is something that the orca is trying to go, look, we've avoided this for too long. We've held this for too long. We've maintained this for too long. You're not seeing this for all it really is. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm aware of that part of myself. I'm aware I've got that going on. Yeah, it seems to be a much more I don't want to say growing presence, because I feel like it's not about a presence, because when we say presence, now we're kind of thinking like, "Ugh," it's not a presence, but it's this growing priority. It's getting perhaps a lot of synchronic endorsement, right? This is the way it's going. This is the way it's going. This is the way it's going. I can see it coming. I can see it 5, 6, 7, 8 steps away. I know this is an inevitability. And that's the thing. There is a fear that is actually trying to be confronted and resolved, because there's a part of your conscious mind that has already accepted a truth that is challenging a subconscious construct. So something obviously precipitated that event. And so and again, the orca is there going, look, you want to pass this test? You want to evolve through this? You want to level up? You want to see what buried treasure is underneath this shadow? Come down here with me. Does that make sense?
It does, and what I'm really deeply taking from your interpretation is this is going to serve as a support tool for me for when the orca returns. I'm confident I'm not going to embrace the journey it's taking me on with the fear I'm reacting with currently. Now, mind you, I haven't had this dream in a couple of years, but the fact that I brought it up in our discussion now, it means okay, the exploration time has been long overdue, and I'm confident that revelation will come now. Well, Nico, that was a beautiful interpretation. I think it's a perfect endpoint for the show, and I thank you very much.
Oh, holy crap, you're right. Okay. Holy crap, here we are. Rob is, again, he's got to get up earlier than me and go to bed earlier than me, and so yeah, we should probably wrap up. Y'all, I hope you enjoyed this, and we will come back and discuss dreams here again very soon. It's a rich tapestry. It's a very difficult conversation to just sort of start on. Rob, any finishing thoughts before we close up?
Just be mindful of defining what dreams are, because dreams by definition are definitionless.
It all weaves together. It's a dish. Every ingredient is what makes the dish. No one defines it. So with that, guys, we're going to say goodnight. And I hope you're all having a happy New Year so far. We'll be back more, of course, talking about all things spiritual, and maybe, cook up a few more dream stories for you. Y'all have a great one. I'm going to say goodnight to you now. Rob?
Good night, folks. Stay peaceful.